Hey, Robert, thanks for joining us today for this interview. I want to hear a lot about your role at Logickull as well as Logickull as a product and how law firms are using it. So if you wouldn't mind just jumping in, telling everybody about who you are and about Logickull.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks a lot for having me and for featuring Logickull here, Chad. Yeah, like you said, my name is Robert Hilson. I'm VP of Marketing at Logickull. I've been with the company for 6 years, kind of as the yeah, I guess one of the chief troublemakers, along with our CEO Andy Wilson. We've tried to stir things up in an industry that a lot of people feel is pretty staid, I guess. But in terms of Logickull, so the company has been around for God, almost 13 years at this point. Um,
Crazy how old companies are like that. That sounds like a long time, even though like I remember when you guys are starting out. It doesn't seem like it should be 13 years, but that's fun. So
Well,
we're
well,
gonna
right, and it's kind of it's an interesting history too, because we started out as kind of a traditional e-discovery vendor, and our founders Andy Wilson and Shen Yang, who's our CTO, they actually kind of cut their teeth doing kind of the back end processing for relativity vendors on these really kind of massive hairy cases. So we're talking about like Microsoft antitrust litigation and the Bank of America subprime meltdown, and just kind of this really like big gnarly stuff.
right.
And what they realized in the course of five long but very profitable years doing that kind of work is um, one, it's ridiculously expensive, right? It's ridiculously complex. It's really insecure in a lot of ways. And so kind of all of that work was kind of the genesis for Logickull.com, which is our cloud-based platform. And kind of what they were asking themselves is, we see all of the problems associated with e-discovery that still exist today, which is, it costs a fortune. It is prone to security issues, and it's just really freaking complex. What if we could automate 98% of this stuff? What if we could put it in the cloud? What if we can empower end users, whether you're on the law firm side or you're in-house or you're with a government organization, to really do this stuff yourself at a predictable cost and do it anywhere really quickly. And so that's the genesis of kind of the company as we know it today, which was launched 7 years ago now at the ABA Tech Show.
Got it. Okay, cool. So a lot there that I'm curious about. So you said about 98% automated that you can do on your own. So walk me through what it looks like if I am a new user, I'm signing up for Logickull. Am I like, what does that really mean to be able to start using something on your own? Because oftentimes like you jump into a platform that says, yeah, you don't need help. And then you get in and it's super confusing. Like, how do you guys differ on that front?
Well, it's a good question, and I guess so. I'll speak to that in a second, but compare it to kind of the traditional e-discovery process where you're literally calling up a vendor on the phone. You may
Right.
be waiting a couple days just to get a hold of them, and then kind of what a traditional workflow would look like is you're collecting all this data on your side or from your client. You're literally shipping it to them, whether it's in a hard drive or via email. They're processing it, then they're hosting it for review, then you finally have access to it, and then you're going through and doing the search and reviewing, then you're getting back to them to actually create the production for you. So it's a process that if you have a large case, I mean, it can last, as many months or years or whatever, right? With Logickull, literally anyone, like I could show it to you right now. You can go online, go to our website, you sign up for an account, takes 30 seconds. You just got to verify your email like any other kind of cloud-based platform. It is literally idiot proof. Okay. So when I say, when I talk about the automation, it's drag and drop uploads, just like you'd upload, a photo to Facebook, say, or, something to Dropbox. That's going to kick off all of the automation that most vendors have to do manually. So we're talking about, deduplicating the data and organizing everything and creating full text and metadata indexes of everything that you put into Logickull, whether it's email or PDFs or Slack files or Zoom chat, it doesn't matter. we're going to basically organize all of that stuff for you so that you can go in and start, you don't even have to search. You can basically just start filtering as you would in like an Amazon or a LinkedIn or, Google, or name your, well-used technology of choice, to really kind of eliminate all of the, noise that is typically associated with discovery, and really kind of highlight the stuff that matters. And then you do your review, you do your tagging, you do your productions, all the stuff that you would typically do kind of in the course of a litigation or a dispute.
Got it. So when we think e-discovery software, which is kind of interesting in the sense, and I think I've seen lots of tweets from Andy on this kind of stuff, where it's like, it's not so much e-discovery anymore. That's, even though we call it that, because everything should be e/electronic. We know it's not, but most of it is. So we're really talking about the discovery process now. So if I'm, is, if it's easy, if it's that easy to sign up for, and you don't, let's say, need a, do you need like a consulting company to help you use it, or can you just do it? You can just go in yourself.
So the vast majority of our customers, and we're talking 1,500 or so customers just based in the US, many of these are law firms. Some of them are, the largest law firms in the world. Some of them are solo practitioners. The vast majority of those organizations are using Logickull themselves. Now, it is meant to be a do-it-yourself platform. That said, kind of one of our calling cards, one of our hallmarks is our 24/7, 365 in-app chat support. And so what we've done over the years is we literally hired like a large team of paralegals, former attorneys, former technicians on the vendor side that are available to assist in the app via chat or screen share. So what we say is it's do it yourself, but it's not do it alone, right? And so, if you do need help, running a more complex Boolean search or creating a production or, importing a database or whatever it might be, it's literally, hey, Ricardo, can you help me out? And boom, former paralegal at one of the largest law firms in the world is like on your screen helping you out with this stuff.
That's awesome. That's just there as part of it. That's cool.
Yeah, and it's free, and it's like we don't charge for it either.
Oh, nice. Cool. So getting information in is always a challenge, or viewed as a challenge. You mentioned, data uploads. Do you guys have integrations like, where you can connect to a Box or Google Drive account, something like that? It can just pull the information based on searches.
I feel like you've done your research. Yeah. So we, yeah, the answer is yes. We connect with Google Vault, Microsoft O365, Box, Slack. I mean, you name it. And that's kind of one of the, that's one of the bigger challenges associated with discovery today, because, it used to be you're searching through bankers, like literally bankers boxes, right? And then it was email, and then it was text messages. And now you're dealing with, data that's in, Slack or Microsoft Teams or in, Zoom or whatever it is. And so we need to be able to account for all of that data, efficiently get it in Logickull, and then organize it. So again, you can kind of make sense of all of this noise and really kind of highlight the stuff that is going to be important for your dispute or investigation.
Got it. I think that saves a lot of time too, right? Because and if you're let's say you're that solo lawyer, small firm lawyer that doesn't have an e-discovery team for you, if you're able to connect to Google Drive or whatever it is, then you can, it just will save a ton of time.
Oh, for sure.
Now, so practically speaking, so in that scenario, so let's say I'm a small firm lawyer, or yeah, let's start with that scenario. I'm thinking of different scenarios, but there, you would connect your clients. Let's say Google Drive is the platform we're dealing with. You would have the client connect their Google Drive account to your Logickull account, and then that will help import the data into Logickull. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of multiple ways to do it. So we've seen law firms do that. Another way to do it is you can just invite your client in. You can give them certain permissions such that they can just upload their own data, and then you can kick them out of the matter, once they've done that. So, if you're dealing with Gmail, great, you just hook up the integration. But if you're dealing with an old Hotmail account or something, or if they just have, a bunch of files that are on site on their servers, you give them access, they drag and drop, then you kick them out of the platform and you have that information at your fingertips instantaneously.
Got it. Okay. And so let's flip the scenario. So if I'm uh, a legal department inside a company that also would be a Logickull user, um, take me through kind of the use case for a legal department deploying Logickull in-house. And because I would think that would save a lot of cost that your outside counsel would be passing back to you. So how would that work if I'm a legal department?
Yeah, so it's a good question. And I think it really depends like kind of on the maturity level of the organization. So we kind of see this in terms of kind of this growth scale from kind of crawl to run. And the crawl piece is you bring Logickull in-house, and you're really just trying to, cull down the information before you then pass it on to outside counsel for the reasons that you're talking about. Because if they're reviewing less information, it's going to save you, a lot less in terms of review cost, right? Yeah. So a lot of times what we'll see, and I think this is an especially acute problem for in-house legal teams, especially now with the resource crunches, contracting budgets, hiring freezes. They just don't have a lot of resources. And so if we can say, hey, you don't need to do the entire search and review internally. Like literally all you have to do is drag and drop, right? And right off the top, just deduping the information, typically what we see is 40% of the data that they're sending to outside counsel is duplicative. So if you drag and drop it into Logickull, you're deduping it and then you're sending it out. That's 40% right off the bat, right? So that's kind of that's the crawl. What we're seeing with, a lot of the either more sophisticated or larger organizations that we're working with, a lot of times they're working with, dozens or, in case of the larger organizations, hundreds of outside counsel.
Right.
And what they're saying is, they'll have a point person internally that's essentially the Logickull administrator. They're going to invite all of those law firms into Logickull. They require their law firms to use it to do everything from soup to nuts. So they'll do the collection piece. They'll give these law firms access to the data, and then the law firms will be doing the search, the review, the productions through Logickull. And this does a couple of things. One, it standardizes the process. So think about it. If I'm working with a large law firm that's that has capabilities in ediscovery, that's not a problem. But I'm also dealing with local counsel who might not be as sophisticated. Right. Exactly. So it's standardizing the process. It's also giving you a lot more visibility into everything as well. And then obviously it's massive in terms of cost containment and in terms of kind of making sure that all of that data is in one secure location.
Got it. No, that makes a lot of sense. And that's better than having, if you have 50 law firms having to deal with 50 different ediscovery, potentially 50 different ediscovery platforms or variations of, use cases for them.
And they all have their own workflows, and they all have to your point, they all have their own relationships. And the other thing, and I kind of alluded to this, but law firms are increasingly being targeted by bad actors like hackers and kind of cyber thieves and stuff like that. It's front page news. We see it like literally every day. And so if you're an in-house legal department, this is a way, if you're using a cloud-based platform where all of the data is encrypted in transit and it's encrypted at rest, you never have to ask, one, where is my data? And you never have to worry that it's being distributed in multiple ways by your outside counsel.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. You mentioned earlier about cost and how from a cost-effective platform, you want to talk a little bit about how the pricing works for Logickull?
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to. And I go back to the idea that we're trying to solve kind of this noise to signal problem. Like that's really how we view ediscovery. And just to give some context here. So we've been looking at our own customer data now for, we have seven years of data. 97% of everything that's uploaded to Logickull is never even reviewed because it's pure garbage, right? It's not relevant to the disputes and investigations that these organizations are working on. e-discovery vendors take advantage of this, right? The fact that you're putting a lot of trash into their systems. And you see that in terms of per gigabyte hosting models where, they might be on Amazon Web Services paying literally a fraction of a penny for hosting and then charging you $40 a gig for it, right?
Mhm.
That's how we used to charge. Our customers said, this is insane. And we looked at this and said, yeah, you're right. It's insane. It's ridiculous that we're charging you like this. About a year ago, we moved to what we call per matter pricing. You can go on our website, logickull.com/pricing, and you can see this. But we charge per matter per month. It's a flat rate of $395. The only other associated cost of Logickull is a one-time data upload rate of $25 per gig. So if you upload a bunch of information, you're only charged for it once. You're not then, carrying on those hosting fees from month to month. And so really what we're trying to solve for is just kind of the fact that e-discovery pricing has traditionally been really unpredictable. A lot of times if you're working with a vendor or, another cloud-based provider, it's really hard to kind of get a sense of what your cost is going to be going into the matter. And then you end up paying for, support and technology assisted review and all this stuff that you didn't even consider going into it. We're really trying to eliminate kind of the variability and just give you kind of a straight answer when it comes to costs.
Got it. Okay, so per matter, and so does the size of the matter matter? Yeah.
So I'd say yes and no.
Okay.
The one component that does correlate to size is the one-time data upload rate.
Right.
Now there are a couple of things to call out there. Typically, when you're looking at per gigabyte hosting fees, for month to month, or just per gigabyte fees in general, typically what other providers will do, and we did this at one point too, is they will charge you on the expanded size of the data. So like what will happen if I upload 1 gigabyte of information into Logickull, it's going to expand probably 2.5 or 3x. We just charge for the uploaded size of the data and then compressed size of the data. So not to get too wonky here, but if you were to, zip up 5 gigabytes of data, which is probably 25,000 documents, and you can get it to a gig, we're just going to charge you once on the 1 gig of data, right? So that's the data component. As far as the per matter pricing goes, no, it doesn't matter if you have, 1 million documents or 10 documents, you're just going to be paying the same flat rate from month to month.
Okay, so a couple of questions there. So when you say expanded data, just to make sure we clarify that for everyone. So
am I getting too wonky here?
No,
okay.
Listen, I love this stuff. So no, we can, we probably don't have enough time to go through everything. But no, these are like practical issues, because I remember when I was, as a lawyer looking at e-discovery software, and that issue of like, well, if you upload this, I remember the actual data, if like you said, 1 gig that you provide them, and they say, no, it's really like 5. That doesn't make sense to most people. And so it's like, is it just taking up more space? Like it doesn't, it's kind of like with iOS photos, where you can have like different sizes of it depending upon, or Google Photos gives you option for different sizes.
Totally.
It sounds like it's kind of the same thing. So if I upload a zip file, obviously that's compressed and that's going to expand. So so you're only charging the actual like upload amount, not a variable amount based on expansion.
The compressed size of the data. So whatever the size of the file is you're uploaded, in the case of our pricing right now, you just multiply it by $25, and that's your one-time cost. And and to your point, the issue is not necessarily that the data is going to expand and that's going to increase your cost, although that's bad, right? But it's often just like, it's a total crapshoot. Like you have no idea what the data is going to expand to when you put it in, right? So it's just like, surprise,
Right. Got it. No, that makes sense. So per matter, that's one challenge I know that lawyers and law firms have with the idea of engaging with e-discovery software is the fear of the cost they're taking on, especially for smaller firms, where it's well, if I take on thousands and thousands of dollars a year. What if I don't have the work? Or,
Right.
what if what if I am a, alternative fee model, which is, I know happens from the standpoint of even, contingent or quasi contingent, where maybe you're working with a business on some litigation and maybe they've paid you a fixed fee, and then, you've got an upside if you recover from the other party. That, starts, raising questions within the law firm's head of whether it is a good use of funds.
Right.
um, Law firms can pass along the cost of their clients, right? Of
Sometimes.
logical.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
and that's especially easier on a per matter basis. So you would basically say, okay, I've got a new client comes in, and there's one matter for now. Maybe there'd be more matters, but you set up a matter in Logickull, and the cost of that is X, and then there's a data upload. The client pays for that, and then that's it. There's not a monthly cost for them, and the client can just pay for it once, and they're done. Is that fair?
Yeah, it's exactly right. Now, the matter cost, you're going to pay the flat rate every month, but then when your case is done, you pull it down, you're no longer paying. It's like Uber or something, right? It's like you're paying when you're in the car, you're not paying when you're not.
Right.
To your point about the ability to bill back and whatnot. I mean, yeah, a lot of firms are able to pass these costs through, and we try to make it easy for them. We actually do what we call per project invoicing or per matter invoicing. And so, if you're using Logickull across multiple clients, we're going to roll up the bills for the matter and the data so that you can just pass it through directly to your client. What we also see, and we're starting to see more and more of this now with firms that do have a lot of this recurring work, is that subscriptions might make more sense because you're going to get the volume discounts in terms of the data rate and the per matter rate. So we're starting to see an increase there too. I think as far as kind of the on demand service goes, the per matter rates, the way we look at it, it's like the calculation is, does this save my client like literally one billable hour a month? Right. That's the
Right.
$395. If the answer is yes, then we feel like Logickull is a good value trade-off. And what we see across the course of all of our customers is that, the savings are obviously much more than that.
Got it. Cool. Okay. Unless there's something else we're missing, I want to talk about one more thing that we talked about before we started recording, your legal hold offering. You've got a free, legal hold tool for in-house and law firms to use. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, so that's the news. We do offer, as of a couple of weeks ago, a free legal holds and notification tool. And kind of the background to this is we saw several different reports from multiple organizations. The ACC, for instance, they do what they call a annual benchmarking report, and it basically looks at technology adoption across primarily in-house legal departments, but also law firms. And one of the things, like one of the pieces of technology that really stood out to us was legal hold. And if you look at everybody surveyed in this one particular survey, it's a 2019 ACC benchmarking survey. 2,000 or so organizations that they asked this question. 85% of them do not have any internal software to actually issue legal holds. And we look at this and we say, like, first of all, why is this? And if you go out and look at the other legal hold solutions out there and what they're charging, you start to get a sense for why this is. But it's not a super hard problem to solve with respect to the actual, issuing and tracking and issuing the reminders of legal holds. It's essentially just like an email tool, right?
Right.
So, that's how organizations are dealing with this today. Primarily, it's basically off the shelf email, and it's tracking custodians and holds and all this stuff in spreadsheets, and it's a huge pain in the butt. And so we said, hey, we think we can solve this problem fairly easily. We can automate the sending, the tracking of the notifications, and then we can provide a centralized platform for all of the reporting. And so this is a solution where, especially if you're an organization that is using spreadsheets and email to do this stuff, you sign up on our site for free, no strings attached. You have, permanent access to this. And we feel like, again, this is a way to automate a lot of the work involved with sending out legal holds.
Got it. So a couple of things there. One, so you can sign up for the legal hold software separate from actually using the ediscovery software.
You can.
Okay. So then, and maybe this is not fair because it's been out for 2 weeks and it's free, but let's try it.
Where's this going?
Don't worry about it. Okay, so my organization needs to issue a legal hold, and we use, let's say, box.com for content management, which has tools within it to actually effectuate the legal hold so that it freezes folders or subfolders or certain types of documents so they can't be deleted. Does your legal hold software kind of tie in with that concept at all?
So it's a good question. The paid plans do. Okay.
Okay.
The freemium version is really, or the free version, I should say, to just get away from the tech lingo. The free version is really for the automated sending and tracking of the holds. And honestly, like if you look at, the last 10 years of case law related to kind of these preservation and notification screw ups, a lot of it is just around kind of miscommunications involving sending the hold. And so that's really what we're trying to solve for. Now, I will say that, on the, the premium hold side, we do actually have kind of the functionality where you can lock down the data. But in either one, one of the things you mentioned is, do I have to use the discovery software too? No, you don't. But, we do have kind of a one-click hold to discovery if, some of those matters ended up going to, litigation or some other dispute.
Okay. So and when you say the paid version, it's the per matter paid. There's not like a legal hold software tool.
No, there is. There's a separate, there's separate.
Okay, so that's just a whole other kind of.
It's a separate product so same platform, two separate products. You got discovery and you got hold.
Got it. Okay. Are there any other products we should talk about that A, I don't know about, and B, it would just be helpful for people to know?
Not yet, but okay. I would say we have a launch event coming in 10 days from now. So,
and today is it is March 4th, 2021, for purposes of kind of tying this in. So you have something.
Are people are going to be listening to this like 10 years from now? Do you think? I feel like
this is going to be timeless. I feel like everything like this is timeless. So they're going to be able to look back on it, and if the product is successful, and be like, "Look, I'm talking about it." If it falls on its face, that's okay too. So it's
exactly
good. It's, it's 2021. The year changed. Everything didn't magically go back together. So yeah, we've got room for error. Yeah, cool. Well, actually, I guess that's a decent transition. One thing that I wanted to talk about before we go is that, we're we're a year into this now of pandemic type life, and stories are really still fascinating about how businesses have adjusted so we can each learn from each other. So I know Andy, your CEO, you mentioned earlier, now moved to Oregon. And so he pieced out to Bend with, I think, the rest of the Bay Area folks.
We all left.
Yeah. And so what else have you seen from either internally within Logickull that has changed as a result of our current status of life, or even like things you've seen change with your customers, or both?
Yeah, well, so I can speak to both. I'll speak first to kind of internally and then what we're seeing out in the market. In terms of kind of the impact on our, our culture and our kind of internal workings. It's funny, I mentioned we've been around for 13 years. Our engineering team, which is the bulk of the company, design and engineering and product, they've been remote the entire time. So this was like kind of no change to them. And I feel like from a culture perspective, and this is a testament to, our executive leadership, like we really didn't miss a beat when when we got the notification, like, hey guys, our San Francisco office is closing, you're working from home for the foreseeable future. So, really hats off to Andy and Shen for first of all, making the decision to close everything before anybody else. And also just, having the culture in place where we really could do this in a seamless way. So that really hasn't been an issue. It's allowed everybody to move to more affordable locations. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia right now, which is awesome.
Wait, and you were living in the Bay Area, right?
I was in San Francisco with a lot of the company, and everybody. I mean, we have multiple people up in Bend. We got exactly. So that's kind of the internal piece of it. From a business perspective, this is actually, and I kind of feel guilty saying this, but this has been kind of a tailwind for us for two reasons. One, it's prompted, I shouldn't say it's prompted, it is required in a lot of instances, this move to the cloud that a lot of organizations have really been reticent to kind of jump on. If you're working remote, like the cloud is kind of the only option, right? So we've seen a tailwind from that perspective, just a lot more cloud adoption across, every part of the market, whether it's, solo practitioners or whether it's like, large banks, right? So that's been one thing. And the other thing is that we're seeing, especially now as we start to come out of this, just a huge uptick in demand related to certain types of litigation related to either COVID or just the economy opening in general. So for instance, two of the ones that we're seeing that are really hot right now, employment litigation, where people are going back into the office, and there's, a lot out there related to COVID that is, spawning disputes. And then like construction law is another big one where like people are starting to go back to the workplace, and it's cranking up again. So I would expect that to, continue into the foreseeable future. But, it's obviously, this has been a really tough time for a lot of people. It's for our business. It's been a good thing.
Good. That's not a bad, I mean, I get it where it's mixed, but no, it's good. We want businesses to grow so you can hire more people and serve more law firms and in-house groups. So that's good. So
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, Robert, I really appreciate you spending some time today talking about all this stuff. And maybe we need to do like 2 or 3 more sessions to dig into like the nerd part of it, because that's fun too. But yeah, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. If people want to get in contact with you and or Logickull, what's the best way for that to happen?
So you can reach out to me directly. My email is robert.hilson@logickull.com. I'm not going to spell logical, but it's not the traditional spelling. So check that out first. Or you can go to our site, logickull.com. Everything that I talked about is going to be available there. Chad, this is a real pleasure. Thank you very much for letting us do this.
No problem. I appreciate it. Have a good one.
Awesome.